Good evening, everyone. It's now 6 o'clock. We're at the District 59 School Board of Education meeting. Board of Education meeting. It's Monday, November 8th. Roll call, please.
On your
Oh,
microphone.
yeah, before we begin, make sure everyone speaks clearly. Turn on your mic.
6 o'clock. And Espino,
Here.
Lang,
Present.
Mencia,
Present.
Petrelli present, Reed,
Present.
Sager,
Present.
and Schumacher.
Present.
Okay.
The next item mine is the Pledge of Allegiance. Can I get our Devonshire students to lead us? So the next thing we have is the Devonshire Elementary School doing a Making Special special. And I want to thank Principal Steinkamp for bringing the specials into this, to reminding us how important specials are. Sometimes we forget about that in our other discussion that we've always had, so thank you. And with that, are your students ready? All right. Remember to speak loudly and into the mic so we can hear you, okay?
Yes.
Perfect.
Loud and clear. Can we turn on their microphones too at the front desk? I think they're off. If you hit the little button on your microphone.
Yep.
Perfect. Thanks.
I'll just start us off real quickly tonight. First of all, I want to thank the board for letting us come. A lot of new faces on the board, but my name is Randy Steinkamp. I'm the principal of Devonshire School. It's been a while since we've been here in person, so it's nice to be back. For our presentation tonight, as Mr. Reed said, we are going to be focusing on our specials classes, and at the elementary level, specials refers to one of three different classes: fine arts, which is a combination of music and art; PE, or LRC, which is our Learning Resource Center. And at Devonshire, we are truly fortunate. We have three outstanding teachers in each of those areas. So introduce them back. We have Renee Steinman, who's our fine arts teacher; Jenny Deal Sim, who's our PE teacher; and Christina Roscoe, who is our LRC director. They do a terrific job of having some really creative activities for our kids. We also brought with us tonight 6 outstanding Devonshire 4th and 5th graders who are going to talk a little bit more about the activities that we do in specials and what makes our specials special. So I will turn it over to Ms. Steinman.
Good evening. So I have 2 5th grade students, and they are going to tell you a little bit about what we have done and how music and fine arts have been a little bit different this year, and how we're approaching especially music. So I'm going to go ahead and have Jacob. You're going to come up. Thank you, Jacob.
Good evening. My name is Jacob George, and I'm a 5th grader at Devonshire School. In fine arts, we do all the arts: music, visual movement or dance, and drama. To acknowledge Veterans Day, we created special veterans card for some veterans, and Mrs. Steinman is going to send them to a Veterans Administration hospital in her childhood town.
You can show. So this is, Jacob made a card kind of representing a lot of the branches of the military. And then David, you can come on up as well, and that's his card that he made. And I'm going to have David read his, and then we will do our performance.
Good evening. My name is David Pankiewicz, and I am a 5th grader at Devonshire School. Music is different this year at Devonshire. We're not singing, however, we are learning musical rhythms using pool noodles. We have learned a desk drumming routine to the Pledge of Allegiance performed as a rap. We hope you enjoy our routine.
We're going to stand up and we're going to switch spots. That's fine. Sure. Yes, that's fine. Okay. Yeah. So good evening. I have two girls that are here, and they're going to share a couple of the things that we've been doing in the Learning Resource Center. So Yanni, do you want to go ahead?
Hi, my name is Yanni. I'm a fourth grader at Devonshire School. I participated in the Storybook Pumpkins. This project was for anyone at our school that wanted to be creative and transform a pumpkin into their favorite storybook character. I choose Piggy. I like this project because you can be creative and you can do it with your family and friends and it costs less.
All right. And you can see Yanni's storybook pumpkin over there on the table. Very crafty, very creative.
Hi, my name is Tanaya Patel. I'm a fifth grader at Devonshire School. I participated in the Storybook Pumpkins also. The students in my school brought in over 170 pumpkins decorated as a storybook character. Our LRC looked amazing and the students loved walking around and looking at all of the pumpkins. I chose the good egg. I like this project because, like Yanni said, it was fun and creative, but it also spends your time and it was worth the effort.
We actually took a picture of a couple of the pumpkins. We'd like to see if any of you can recognize these characters. Let's give it a try. Raise your hand if you think you might have an answer.
All right, could you advance to the next slide? Oh, not that. Oh, okay. This one? All right, so this is just an example. We were able to decorate the LRC with over 170 pumpkins. So that was a fabulous, I guess, a fabulous accomplishment, I guess, just because we have just a little over 300 students. So we had over half of our students participating in this project. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Is there anyone that thinks they can guess that storybook character?
The Miss Lang,
Pete the cat.
you're correct.
Go ahead, Yanni. Want to read that, Kim?
Does any of you guys know what character this is?
Is that Rainbow Fish?
Correct.
Who thinks they can guess this one? You?
That's Dogman.
Correct.
Can anybody think what character this is?
BFG.
Correct.
We got a reader. We have a reader.
Who thinks they know what character this is? You?
I believe that's Mudge.
Correct.
Does anybody know what character this is?
I'll try. Is this the big friendly giant?
No.
No.
Nice try. Let's try again.
Good try.
Wild Robot.
Yes.
I do have elementary school kids, so.
You're a very good reader, though. All right, go ahead, Samantha.
As a fifth grader at Devonshire School, I will also be participating in the Battle of the Books this March. All fifth graders will participate and work on a team to read 15 books. Teams will gather together and answer questions, and the team with the most points will go up against the teachers. Here's a little trailer that will get our fifth graders excited about the battles.
We can go back to that side. Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, I'm just going to get started. My name is Mrs. Deal Sim. I'm the PE teacher at Devonshire. I have Gabby and Ashi with me here today. They're going to be doing some experiments for you. We have been trying something new this year at Devonshire to enhance our brain breaks in the classroom. So we've designed some lessons to kind of give to the teachers so that they can be more structured in their lessons, so we can, if you wouldn't mind just kind of clicking through there. So they're structured brain breaks, and that reinforce the PE and health concepts that we do in the gym. They allow for more engagement and learning during those brain breaks in the classroom. And then they're easy to follow presentations that we have done for our teachers, so they can just follow along by doing the slides. I won't give you a full presentation because they cut me off with my time limit. So, so some of the topics that we are giving the teachers to use for their brain breaks include the components of fitness, like cardiovascular endurance, benefits of a healthy lifestyle, nutrition, and also the skill components like agility. So one of the components that we're covering tonight is reaction time. So Gabby, can you tell us what reaction time is?
Reaction time is how quickly you respond to something you see, hear, or feel.
And then why is this important, Ashi?
Why is it important? How quickly you can react can mean the difference between stopping a goal or letting one go, digging a volleyball or letting it hit the floor.
Now, we had a couple of experiments that we did in actually Mrs. Keel's classroom, who is here tonight. So we are going to start with a little ruler experiment. Now, we're going to let Ashi and Gabby demonstrate that for you. Ashi is going to explain it, and then we actually brought some rulers for you guys to try it as well.
Should we go over here?
Sure.
So what you have to do is one person holds the ruler like at the top, and another person doesn't really hold it, but like puts it in between their fingers. And the person at the top is going to drop the ruler. So we're going to see how much time it takes for Gabby to finish the ruler. Yes. So you can see how it has to do and then So Gabby's reaction time is
Now, so we're going to give you a chance to try that. We put a ruler between you and your partner. So if you guys want to stand up, it's easier to do if you're standing, and you can try this with a partner. I think you're even, so.
There we go. Let's see how you do. Ready? Ready? I think we got the fastest person. Very good. Very good. Come on.
That's good. Yeah.
I dropped it. I did not catch it. The first one fell, didn't it?
One of the nice things about this is it's not just a competition, but students, just like we do in PE, they work to improve their own reaction time as well. So they're improving their own performance the more they practice it. Gabby has our second experiment for you, and then I'm not going to make you do this one, but Ashi and Gabby will demonstrate the tennis ball experiment for you as well.
Yeah. I think we should have the board try this one.
You should never ask for that, because as a PE teacher, I'm always extra.
Let's see.
Okay. I do not hold out a lot of hope for this one.
It does take a little practice.
Where does this hand go?
Oh, it's okay. You guys can have it.
There we go. So much fun. Got it. Very nice.
I know, I was going like this at first. For dear life. Falling to my head. Did Mr. Steinkamp try this at all?
No.
Mr. Steinkamp, would you like to try the
Thank you. Oh, I dropped.
Nice job. All right, thank you for trying this with us. There are more lessons. They're all involving movement and just getting the kids more engaged. So we thank you for participating. They're collecting the tennis balls and rulers.
Do you have them on your website?
We have one more slide.
Can we go to the last slide? All right, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you for all you do to make District 59 a great place to grow and learn.
Since it is School Board Appreciation Week, we want to thank you for all you've done, and we have a Devonshire swag bag for you. So go ahead, you can start over here. I gave out two.
Thank you, sir.
Here we go. You said come on. Okay, you have a teacher voice, did you know that?
Do you mind if I make a comment? Should we all make comments?
That goes to Mrs. Lang.
So Devonshire students, I just want to thank you because I thought of the many wonderful students we have come speak before us. You all spoke so professionally from the microphone. I was really impressed with your public speaking skills, and I was also impressed with the way that you were able to, in a step-by-step way, educate us on how to do the reaction times. And just my last comment that I think is so neat on behalf of both the students and your teachers is the creativity that you're bringing. I have never seen drumming with pool noodles before, and it's brilliant. And also a lot less loud than like cymbals and regular drumming, but still reinforces the skills. And also just the artistic creativity as well as the PE creativity. We just thank you guys for expanding our minds as to what specials can be.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it's not easy to come up and speak in front of a lot of people, but you guys were so cool and you guys were so confident when you guys were speaking. And it's not easy to perform in front of people too, and doing, you know, if it's the drums or showing us your art or doing the experiments, that's not easy, but you guys pulled it off. You know, so congratulations. And I do got to say, I'm very jealous. I wish I could participate in the 15 books contest. You know, I'm very jealous of that. So good luck, read, absorb all you can. Thank you for coming.
So I'd like to invite the parents, you want to come take a picture, picture of your students, children from the front, you're more than welcome, come on up here behind us, take some pictures. Well, I'm kind of saying thank you for coming out. I appreciate it. So this Battle of Books, do you get to pick your team, or is this team that you guys are going to get picked for you?
The fifth graders are coming up in March, so the expectations have not been laid and all
Okay.
for them, but yes, they will be having to collaborate as a team within their classroom. And then, of course, all those teams will go up against one another. And then that final student team will then go up against the
Well, I wish the teachers luck, because I think the students will take them. Uh-oh.
Teachers won last year.
Come on, students.
This is your year, students. This is your year.
Yep. And now I'm going to ask the students to come up in front of us, so we can get a picture for all of us together, too.
You guys come stand right here in front of us here. And look that way. Yep, come this way. First, face the crowd, and we'll all take a nice big picture.
And then the thing, I want the special teacher, I think the special teacher's up here too, right? Come on. I know. Teacher. Come on.
Teachers and the principal.
Luckily, I don't have flashes anymore.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
I'd just like to congratulate the students and the teachers. I think you did a wonderful job. And I'm very happy to see your principal. I haven't seen him in a long time, and we're old friends. So it's very nice to have everybody here from Devonshire.
And I'd just like to note that they all came in on their day off. So thank you, parents, for getting them here. Thank you, students, for coming in. Hope you had a great day off.
Thank you for the present.
We everyone,
Phone up on my books, I tell you.
what's that?
I'm gonna get up on my books now.
Well, I mean, she's kind of, you know.
I got grandkids, are you kidding?
Hearing? Can I have a oh, the audit. Oh, yeah, sorry, the audit. I skipped ahead, sorry about that. I jumped ahead. I really want to get this thing going.
Well, thank you for having me tonight, but I don't thank you for having me having to follow the children. That was fantastic. But in all seriousness, thank you for having me. My name is Joel Lycap. I'm a partner with Baker Tilly, your external auditing firm. There is, first off, before I get started, I want to thank the business office for their help in conducting the audit. A successfully completed audit takes a lot of work, a lot of hard work on both sides from us and especially the business office. We ask a lot of questions, we ask for a lot of information. and the district's records were in great shape and our questions were answered immediately, and information provided to us. So it was a smooth audit, and it's always great to see. It doesn't always happen, but it's happened here with us, so it's great to see. I have two reports I'll go over today: the audited financial statements and the reporting and insights letter. I'll start off with the audited financial statements. And the financial statements you were provided tonight is a slimmed down version of the financial statements. The district issues two different reports, a basic financial statements that accompanies the AFR that goes to ISB, as well as a comprehensive annual financial report that'll be issued later on. When you receive the comprehensive annual financial report, it'll have some more narratives that you'll be able to read about the district and policies, and then also in the back there's 10-year trend information, so you can see how the district has progressed over time in a couple of key financial metrics. So I'll be going over at a very high level. If you've had a chance to see things, feel free to stop me, ask questions, or if anything I say, if you have any questions based on that, feel free to stop me. First off, with the AFR, ISB issues a financial profile score based on your metrics. And once again, the district is at a 4.0, which is recognition status. It's the highest score you can get. This is an estimated score based on the draft AFR. ISB still has to approve it, but we don't usually see many changes in that regard. On the financial statements, we issued a clean or unmodified opinion on the district's financial statements. It's the highest level of assurance you can get from your outside auditors, and states that everything's reasonable in all material respects and can be reasonably relied upon by an outside user of the financial statements. So definitely the opinion you want to see. There is a paragraph in this year's opinion. It's called an emphasis of a matter paragraph. And this is because the district adopted a new accounting standard, GASB 84, for fiduciary activities. So in the past, you had student activity accounts that were included as agency funds in a separate schedule of the report. This accounting standard required that these agency funds, activity funds, be included within the educational fund. So it's definitely a change from the prior year. ISB went and they created new accounts and new line items on the AFR, so your comparability will be the same year over year, but it's just a change in external financial reporting, really, more than anything else. Operationally, I don't think anything's really changed. In the report, there's what we call the statement of net position and the statement of activities. This is the one time of the year where you see all of the funds of the district combined into one column. It has it's a long-term perspective. It has all of your capital assets, all of your long-term debt, and it ends in what we call net position. That number over time is a good indicator of how the district's doing. It goes up when you spend money on capital assets. It goes down when you borrow debt. It goes up when you pay off debt. So that as you build infrastructure, build buildings, it's a good thing. Your net position goes up. Net position this year increased by $13 million. And as I said, that was due to the spending on capital assets, repayment of debt without issuing new debt, and then improvements related to the net pension liability and the OPEB liabilities with an improved fiscal market for IMRF. Your net pension liability for IMRF turned into a net pension asset for the year. There are also schedules on more of a short-term perspective that are presented by fund. So you can see the general fund, what we call the general fund, which is the educational fund and the working cash fund combined. You can see that. You can see a fund for operations and maintenance, transportation, IMRF, debt service and capital projects, and life safety. This is more of a short-term perspective, so only current inflows and outflows are presented. So if you're owed money and you don't receive it within a short enough time after year end, it's not accounted for as revenue. So again, a short-term perspective. And this ends in fund balance. And if we look at fund balance for the district's funds, what we usually combine and call the operating funds, which would be the general fund, operations and maintenance, transportation, and IMRF. Fund balance for those funds increased by 4.8 million and has about 11 and a half months in reserves. The capital projects fund balance increased by about $4.9 million. And the life safety fund, which had expenditures of about 22.3 million on planned life safety projects during the year, that fund balance decreased. So you borrowed money in that fund last year and you spent a good portion of it this year. All funds combined decreased by about $12.4 million due to the large spending on capital improvements for life safety. So that's kind of the high-level summary of the basic financial statements. After that, there's the notes to the financial statements where you can see some of the changes in the assets and liabilities over the year. You can see accounting policies and a lot more detail in some of those balances. I guess with that, before I go to the second report, I'd open it up to the board for any questions or comments on those.
I have a question. For a lot of our families that are watching at home, I think the important piece is that we have an independent third party, Baker Tilly, that audits the financial activity of the district. Can you explain, like, at a real high level, that process? Like, are you checking for fraud? Are you checking to make sure that, checks aren't being written for personal expenses? Those kind of things.
So an external audit is probably a higher level look at your finances than you might think from an audit. People hear audit, they think of an IRS audit where they're going through every little line item, right? That's not really what it is. We have a higher level look. Our goal is to make sure the financial statements are not materially misstated, so that somebody making a decision on, to lend you money or to invest in your outstanding obligations, they look at your finances and we're giving assurance that it's not materially misstated. So it's a pretty higher level than that. We do look at internal controls to plan the nature, timing, and extent of our audit procedures. Not necessarily to provide an opinion on internal controls, but if something were to come out of that that we felt the board should know about, we would have that in a letter that we also present tonight.
And then just to summarize too, so the result of the audit was that the district received a score of 4.0, which is the highest score it could get, and a clean, unmodified opinion, meaning that the financial statements that we had were good. We're in good shape, basically, that everything was done properly, the finances that we're reporting are done correctly, and we're not lying when we're creating our documents.
Yep, yeah, it's a good summary.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have a question. I was reading the letter in page 3 under the other matters. You talked about the management omitted the MD&A discussion. Is that standard usually for school districts, or is that kind of because I'm familiar with the other side of it a little bit.
So this slimmed down version of the financial statements does not include the management's discussion and analysis. The comprehensive annual financial report that'll be issued later, that will include that discussion as well. And I would highly recommend you go there and once that's published to read that. That's really management's perspective of what happened compared to the prior year, put in management's words, like, the initiatives that were done and what the money was spent on.
And then you kind of touched on this, the emphasis of matter. So that was basically for our school, our PTO funds that were basically moved from their own separate funds into the education fund, correct? So
Yeah,
pretty material dollar amounts, basically.
They're smaller dollar amounts compared to the general fund as a whole. I think about we sent over about 88,000, I think. So in relation to the to the ed fund balance as a whole, it's relatively minor.
And that is because of the change in the reporting of the AFR, correct?
Yeah, because
reporting?
ultimately the accounting standards changed. Ultimately, the district is really responsible and controls those funds. So that the change in the standards kind of made that be okay. You have the control you have over those funds and directing how they're spent and having control over. It really makes them more district funds than agency funds. And that's across the state. This is all the school districts in Illinois should be reporting it this way, unless there's extenuating circumstances.
And then I think the last thing, we received 3 CARES, amounts for 3 CARES from the government, from the federal government. Those have been, the first 2 have been accounted in here, correct? In the revenue we reported and in our expenditures. The third one has not been reported yet because that'll be occurring in a future fiscal year.
And there's still part of 2 that is in fiscal year 22 as well.
Is that separately noted in here at all, or is that just part of the general numbers?
There is some detail on the revenue side, not on the expenditure side.
Okay.
There will be also, we're in the process of finishing up the audit of the federal awards. And so we'll look at those, how that money was spent, and if it was spent in accordance with the federal guidelines to make sure it was spent appropriately.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So
I think there are no more questions, so I want to thank you. And
Wait, is there still?
there is another letter.
the other report,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
So this is the other letter is much smaller. It's kind of the non-financial highlights of the audit. It satisfies a few different auditing standards. So we're required to report certain things to the board, including what our responsibilities are for the audit, what management's responsibilities are for the audit. There's a whole list of if there were disagreements with management, any troubles performing the audit, material adjustments, things like that. As you read through this, you'll see that it's a very boilerplate letter. The audit went well. There's nothing really of interest to report in that letter. So that's good, definitely what you want to see. I mentioned internal controls. There was nothing in that review that we felt the board should be concerned about. There's always recommendations, things to do better here and there, but we talked to management about those, and they don't really rise to the level of this discussion. On page 2 of that letter has my contact information as well as the manager on your engagement. We ultimately work for the board, so if there's ever any questions, concerns about the audit or things that you have questions about, we're always happy to take your call. Anytime during the year. It doesn't have to be at audit time or after the fiscal year end. So I really like to highlight that. And there is a few pages at the very back end of this report that kind of, if you read through that, it might pique your interest on things that we might be looking for. Other than that, it's a very straightforward and good letter.
Overall, how long did the process take? Is this a 90-day?
So we're focused. Our team is focused on your audit for about 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then there's back end reporting and
Sure.
reviews and all that stuff.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions?
Since there's, thank you very much. Have yourself a great evening.
Yeah.
All right. Thank
I
you.
appreciate all your hard work and the quick turnaround. I know there was extra work related to the CARES and stuff like that or the federal funding. I know it added some extra work onto it.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public hearing. Do we have a motion?
I can make the motion. At its September 17th, 2021 meeting, the Board of Ed discussed and directed the administration to move forward with preparing the levy and to set the public hearing date for November 8th, 2021. The state's truth in taxation law requires that if the estimated levy exceeds 105% of the prior year's extension, the district must give public notice of and hold a public hearing of its intent to adopt an aggregate levy. While District 59's proposed levy does not meet this 5% level, the administration believes that meeting the spirit of the law is in the district's and the community's best interest. Therefore, this resolution authorizes the board to hold a public hearing regarding the levy prior to adoption. Following the public hearing, a resolution should be approved adopting the levy. So the recommendation is that the administration recommends the meeting be opened for public comments and/or requests for consideration prior to the adoption of the 2021 tax levy. Resolutions to open and to close the hearing follow. Probably this is where I could have began. Sorry, everyone. Resolution number 1. Motion was made by Courtney Lang, seconded by
Robert, I'll second it.
Robert Mancia, that the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education meeting be opened on this date, November 8th, 2021, for a public hearing on the proposed tax levy for 2021, and that the secretary shall record the time as 6:41 p.m.
I'll hit 6:40. That works out. Got a one number now. And roll call? Okay.
Did somebody second it?
Yeah, I did.
Lang,
Aye.
Mencia,
Aye.
Petrielli, aye. Reed,
Aye.
Sager,
Aye.
Schumacher,
Aye.
and Espino.
Aye.
And the motion passes.
We have open public comment for the tax levy. There will be another time for public comment for regular school board stuff after this tax levy hearing. Has anyone come to speak before the board? Okay. Can I get a resolution to close the hearing for the tax levy?
Is that the second?
I'll make the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion was made by Robert Mancia, seconded by Patty, that the hearing on the 2021 tax levy be closed and the secretary shall record the time as 6:43 p.m.
Mencia,
Aye.
Petrielli, aye. Reed,
Aye.
Sager,
Aye.
Schumacher,
Aye.
Espino,
Aye.
and Lang.
Aye.
And the motion passes.
Okay. Comments and suggestions from the public. Before we take comments and suggestions from the public, I do want to read something. Basically, in light of the recent news regarding invented school board meetings across the country, the District 59 Board of Education would like to take a moment to reiterate the pride we take in our relationship with our stakeholders. We hold these meetings to not only conduct the business of the board, but to welcome feedback and involvement from our families and community members. Any opportunity to hear concerns or thoughts regarding our students and the direction of the District 59 should be seen as a positive and a pathway to strengthening our relationship with the communities we serve. We do what we do because we are committed to the betterment of our communities and our students' education, and that is a vision we all share. We thank you for your continued partnership, and we look forward to provide the best possible learning environment for all our students and staff, and look forward to continuing this work throughout the school year. So with that, I'd like to open up public comment, and before we begin, I have another thing to read. I guess this is my day to read stuff. Although comments may be made on almost any matter related to the operation of schools, comments will not be allowed concerning individual students or staff members. Any comments related to individual students or staff should be addressed in private with the superintendent. As a reminder, this meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. The video of the meeting will be archived and available for viewing after the meeting has adjourned. For those sharing a public comment, please be mindful that you are being broadcast live and your comment will be included in the video archive. Please limit your individual comments to 3 minutes. A board member will serve as timekeeper and will give a speaker notice when there is 30 seconds remaining to allow speaker time to complete or summarize their thoughts. The board's attorney has advised the board to maintain a consistent rule regarding the length of time an individual may take to address the Board of Education. Doing so safeguards the freedom of speech rights of each speaker to be treated equally. If one person is granted additional time, then all speakers henceforth will need to be treated similarly. This is a business meeting of the Board of Education, and the board must conduct its business in public and must complete that business in a timely manner. If you wish to provide written comments to the board, they will be included in the meeting minutes. Such meetings are not held for discussions of the public. While it is the practice of the board not to respond to the public questions or comments during the board meeting, board members do listen attentively and carefully and consider the thoughts and topics you present. With that, we have Cindy Wiggins.
Good evening. I'm Cindy Wiggins, fifth grade teacher over at Claremont. I'm here with two of my co-chairs, Judy Webb, third grade Claremont, and Chrissy Griffin, second grade Ridge. We come to you as representatives of the District Education Association, and we just wanted to take a moment during this November meeting to recognize our 7 very dedicated board members during this month of November, and especially on November 15th, which is National Board Member Day. We would like to express our gratitude to one of the hardest working groups of volunteers in our community. Our school board members are just ordinary citizens with extraordinary dedication to our community and our children. We are lucky to have such dedicated group of individuals who voluntarily give of their time to fulfill their roles. Board members contribute hundreds and hundreds of hours each year leading our district. In particular, this year, your responsibilities have involved decisions and choices that not only relate to regular school system operations, but additional decisions that impact our families in ways as never before. We just wanted to take a minute to recognize the vital contributions that you board members give to us and make a difference in our students and staff every day. Thank you very much.
You missed calling JP. Not the JP Morgan. Yes. I don't have any speech, but I came in. My daughter was one of the presenters here today, Asi Patel. And I want to thank you so much because I told Mr. Steinkamp he's done an amazing job during the COVID, keeping the communication up. Sometime I'm working from home, and past year, me and Ashi would be in the same room, and Miss Thompson, she's her 4th grade teacher. And the way you have to handle the kids, all of you been in the corporate meetings, right? And it's hard to see these 14, 15 kids and tell them over the computer, saying, hey, behave, do this, It was very hard. So she's done a great job. All the communication we received from the Devonshire, it's been great throughout the pandemic. So again, Mr. Steinkamp, you've done a really good job, not only in the pandemic, but my daughter's been going to school, Devonshire, for the past 5 years. Kindergarten, Miss Martin. 1st grade, Miss Leone. 2nd grade, Miss Guerrero. And then 3rd grade, blanking out. Miss Thompson was in 4th grade, Miss Hess is in the 5th grade. Who I'm missing? I'm missing one of the teacher, I'm sorry. But throughout the 5 years, again, I told you I didn't have a speech ready, but I came here and I said I want to say something, and I wanted to do this for a long time because I think you should make a comments, and if it's something good or bad, you should bring it up to the board, that's how they have done it. So for past 5 years that she's been at Devonshire, she's done great. And one of the examples is she was able to sit here and present it for you guys, and you guys said that she has done a great job. That all came from all the education that Devonshire has provided her and get her ready. And I don't want to forget Miss Briggs, her talent development program, and she was in reading, and this year she got into math, and that made me so happy, because I wanted to see her at Devonshire in both of the subject, math and reading. She got in there, so Miss Briggs has done such a great job. Last year they had a debate that they did, and we were talking about it. So that's the confidence building they're doing for the kids. So I really appreciate Mr. Stanford. Thank you so much for the board member.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you for speaking so loudly because I understood every word you said, and that doesn't happen very often with masks. So thank you.
Agenda item 7.0, district presentations. 7.01, the dashboard. I'm assuming that's you, Tom?
Katie.
Oh, Katie.
Good evening. As I have shared in the past, I have averages for us this evening as well as totals and some information on our current COVID-19 procedures. So for our averages over the last 5 weeks, we've seen an average of 9 positive student cases per week, 2 positive staff cases per week, 38 student close contact quarantines per week, and 0 staff quarantines per week. Over this last week, we saw a positive case increase and a quarantine increase, which is different from the 6 weeks prior. We were holding pretty steady with relatively low numbers. In total this year, we've had 120 student cases, 20 staff cases, 489 total quarantines for close contact, and 70% of those quarantines were from close contacts within school settings, which include buses, activities, and classrooms. Our ratio of positive cases to quarantines is 1 to 4, and we have had 2 epidemiologically linked cases as determined by our local health department. That is also a first. We have found 3 positive cases through our shield testing. And we also, in this past week, held a vaccine clinic here at the administration building from 9 to 3 on Saturday, in which we were able to deliver 328 pediatric doses for our 5 to 11-year-olds and 79 boosters or adult doses for a total of 407 shots given this weekend. So I want to especially thank Jewel Osco for their partnership and all of our district staff that helped to coordinate, that volunteered, and that gave their time to make that happen this weekend.
Thanks, Katie. I also wanted to add, I think that there was some chatter questioning how we are tracking or why we are not reporting out the number of students who may end up being positive after being quarantined. And that is not actual data that we are collecting because we do not require students who quarantine to actually be tested. So therefore, we would have incomplete data sets in order to report out on that. So we are not reporting out on that number. And I want to give a personal thank you to Katie for coordinating that clinic on Saturday and really for all of our response holistically to the pandemic that has taken a lot of leadership. And Katie has been absolutely amazing and was here, I'm pretty sure, the whole time on Saturday, making sure everything ran very smoothly. And I know Ross and Tom and Susan, and I'm not sure who else, Ron came by, and just to be here and make sure that that ran smoothly. I saw some board members here with their families. I think we had a very positive response, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Katie, I just want to second that and thank you and the whole team as well for the efforts to have the clinic, because I think it was a great opportunity for our children 5 to 11 to have their first chance at a shot, and then those who were eligible for boosters to get those. So truly, thank you for making that happen in such a timely manner, because I did have several parents say to me, I was so excited to get an appointment for my child. I couldn't get them from our local pediatrician. So the fact that you offered this was a huge value add. I did want to ask you about I'm not going to pronounce this right, but the
Epidemiologic.
Thank you. Linked cases that we had for the first time. Do we have any insight into whether mitigation strategies failed us in any specific way? I think it's great that it took this long for us to have one, but just any insight into what might have contributed to this?
It's hard to pinpoint exactly. My guess would be that it was lunch, but that's just a guess.
Okay.
So when these things happen, in terms of outbreak status right now, IDPH and ISB determines 3 cases from the same cohort or the same group or the same classroom to be an outbreak. And so in a preventative measure, the local health department advised us to do an adaptive pause for that class. And so it's hard to pinpoint exactly where, but what we're doing in terms of our mitigations is making sure that when we are locating a certain group or a certain location where we have more than 1 or 2 positive cases, we're immediately reviewing that. We're reviewing that with the local health department, and then we're moving into preventative measures very quickly, as we did in this case.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Can
can't say for
ask
sure.
you, I know that there was a question, and I don't know, I'm sure you told them at the clinic on Saturday, but when it comes to the second dose, I know there was a parent that had a question. Are we setting up the same thing for the second dose, or do they have to make arrangements for that themselves?
I'm determining that right now with Jewel, so we want everybody to know that it's the same place and the same time. So we have the 27th is our second dose clinic. It will run from 9 to 12, as we did this last Saturday, and we will be reaching out with information on if it's the exact same appointment time or if there will be an opportunity to reschedule the appointment time between 9 and 12.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And just for everybody knows too, we were chatting about it earlier. The email confirmation that a parent received when they signed up for the first shot included a link to schedule the second shot. And if you clicked on that link, it is, November 27th here at the district building. but you have the option of selecting the times of when you want to come in. So I think that's what we need to clarify and communicate out to the parents, that if they do have to do that, to make sure that they do it, or if not, just so everybody knows. Because there was a little confusion as to when that second shot is going to happen, or what do they have to do to get it.
Yeah, we've had two sets of directions, so we're just clarifying with Jewel, and then we will definitely send out a communication with very clear directions as to how to get that time done. Thank you.
And it might be premature, but is there any direction from the state as far as recording vaccination rates for the 5 to 11 group? Are we tracking that, or is it too early to tell?
We have been asking parents for information on vaccines because that, as a school district, allows us to keep kids in school when they are close contacts. So as a reminder for students who are vaccinated, they would not have to quarantine if they are in close contact with a positive case. And so we want to have that information on file with our vaccine clinic. We know the students who have received their vaccine, and we've always asked that our 12 and up students, that their parents report through our Google form that we have, so that we can keep that information on file. It is in our student information system, so that in the case that they are a close contact, we're able to very quickly assess and see who does and who does not need to quarantine based on their vaccine status.
Now, is that after the first, second, or is it after the second and then they're
2 weeks.
time
It's
to really
14
let it set in?
days. 14 days after the second shot is when you are considered fully vaccinated.
Okay.
And the state does maintain a database that we have access to individually look up students if they don't self-report it.
And Katie, just as a follow-up, I know that those student appointments for the age 5 to 11 filled like within 24 hours.
Yes.
Do we expect that we'll have another opportunity with Jewel to provide like a second clinic?
I am already in communication with them. I started emailing earlier today about if there are other times and dates available. They did inform me on Saturday that they're having a little trouble with staffing with the holidays coming up because they need to fill all of the immunizer positions and make sure that they have enough people to fulfill those vaccine clinics. So hopefully we'll get some dates and times soon as to when the next available will be.
But I think in the meantime, are we looking for, like, I know when we're trying to get teachers vaccinated, we were trying to, hey, here's a clinic available and stuff like that. Are we trying to do the same thing? Are we sharing out information like that to families, like, hey, here's a possibility if you want to, your child wants to get vaccinated? Are we doing it like that?
We have been communicating clinics, but since vaccines became more widely available, and they are really now at every pharmacy and every location and some stores that are not even pharmacies, we have not communicated that lately, but we can look into resending that information.
Yeah, just like, hey, if we know for those of you who couldn't sign up for the, vaccine clinic, we're trying to have another one, but we may not have it for a while. If you can, check out your local pharmacy or here's some other locations. Yeah, just like communication like that would be kind of great, I think.
Sure, we can put that together as soon as we kind of know when that next clinic may be.
I just want to echo the same. As a parent who was here on Saturday with my 2 boys, thank you, members of the SLT who are here on a Saturday, moving people smoothly through. I walked by the building a few times and I saw a steady stream of people coming out, and so it was a very nicely run clinic.
Yeah.
And I was very happy with what I saw.
Thank you, it was a team effort.
Yeah, there were a lot of parents here that it was their first time in the building. Everyone that I spoke to on Saturday morning, because I was here, the mood was just through the roof. Everybody was in a great mood. Even the kids, they were getting shots, they were in a good mood about it too. But also, thank you for our friends at Jewel Osco for providing the free gifts for the kids, the little photo wall for the kids. So, I mean, it was a very positive experience and worth the wait.
Are there any additional questions? I think we'll move on to 7.02, follow presentation, fall benchmarking data. This one's Tom.
That's correct. So the last time we were together, we shared our fall benchmarking report. If you could scroll to, I think it's slide 29. There were a number of questions from the board, and we provided thought this would be a great opportunity to do a follow-up and provide some answers to some of the key kind of common questions from the group. So the four main questions that we're going to share some data with tonight relate to, there was a question about the iReady data. What did our iReady data look like? There were questions about comparisons to branching minds in the past, some English learner and former EL data, and then some questions, clarifications around the panorama data. So if we could jump ahead a couple slides. One more, please. Thank you. So this is our iReady data. On the left is the math, and on the right is reading. You'll see as a district where we fall. Now, iReady uses a 5-level system. And one thing I talk about every time I talk about iReady, their benchmarks are connected to end-of-year data. So when you see mid or on grade level, 5% of our kids basically are at the end of their grade level, even though they took this test at the start of the grade level. So one of the key pieces that I look at, and we talk a lot about, is that one grade level below. So basically, that's someone they ended their last year, they're on grade level for completing, let's say, 3rd grade, not quite in the middle or at the end of 4th grade. So anything really from that yellow and green is right where we want to be. We also provided the data on Illinois. So you can see where Illinois falls, where the national piece falls. There's about 5 million kids nationally that are assessed in iReady, about 170,000 in Illinois. And then the historical piece, and they've been providing the pre-COVID data. So you can kind of see the difference back to 2018-19 where kids were falling nationally, and then where they're falling today. So you can see we compare pretty well with math across the board to both Illinois and the national piece. And then reading, not quite as much, but then again, pretty consistent across the board. Any questions on that? Okay. Then one of the questions, where did we end? Actually was, let's compare to fall of last year. You might remember I had shared that since we were completely at home during the fall of 2020-21, we were seeing some data that we were questioning the accuracy just based on kids maybe having the opportunity to get some help or assistance. So we went to the end of the year, and I'll really just focus on Tier 1, the green piece. At the end of 2021, 57% of our kids were at Tier 1. And at the start of this year, it's 62% of our kids. You might remember we had talked about how the IEP kids who receive IEP services in math are pulled out in iReady. We dropped that in the data in the fall piece. Those kids are excluded in this piece, so we could really create that comparison between last year at the end of the year and this fall. So some kids are missing, I think it's about 175. But that gives you a good comparison. Then at Dr. Bresnahan's suggestion, we went back to our last pre-COVID year, the fall of 2019-20, to see where we were at then. Different assessment. It was fast, but you can see 71% of our kids were in Tier 1 as compared to 62%. And then something we've been doing to try to get an understanding, I hope Dr. Sager likes this slide. We've talked about this a little bit. This is basically, it's called a histogram. And what this does is gives us an idea of how many kids are ready to kind of move to that next level. So you can see, this is the 25th percentile. That's where we talk about that 80%. We want 80% of our kids from the 25th up. We have about 60 right now. And you can see we want 20% over here, we have 40. So we want to see as we move through the year, kids moving over. There are too many kids at this level. This needs to shrink. We know it, we're working on that. That's why we have the intervention pieces in place, hired those math interventionists, worked on our win time to move all of those kids over. We're really excited about winter benchmarking to see where kids are at, because kids and staff have worked so hard this fall. In the end, our goal would be 5% on each end, 15 kind of on the border, and then 60 in the middle. That would be a normal kind of distribution when you have a normal, a norm reference test like iReady. So then let's jump to reading. Last spring, we were at 68%. We're at 65 now. Back a couple years ago in the fall, we were at 77%. We're at 65 now. Again, it kind of plays out in alignment, even though this was different assessments with what iReady was seeing nationally. And then the next slide represents, again, that histogram and kind of breaking things down. Reading, you can see those numbers started to shrink a little bit. And I should point out, each line gives you the number of kids in that line. So I think this is 64. So we would know exactly how many kids out of about 5,600. I had to shrink this down, so you probably can't read that. I do have those numbers if you want them in something you can read. But it gives you each number, a total number of kids in each of those categories. So we want, like this group, if we can bump them over in the 25th percentile, take some of these kids, bump them over, and just keep moving kids over. No worries. Then we had a question about our EL learners. So this represents about 2,500 students who fall into our EL program. That's bilingual Spanish 1 and 2 way, bilingual Polish 1 way, and all of our ESL students. You can see where they're falling tier-wise. If you remember, about 60% for all kids. Here we're showing about 40 and 41 for reading and math. Over time, the highest numbers are in these early grades. Kids exit over time, so those totals get lower as we move through the system.
Is that a percentage like the English language learners or the percentage of the district?
So that's the percentage in that tier. So of our English language learners, it's about 45% of our kids, that 2,500 or so. 40% total are in tier 1.
So as they're getting into like 8th grade, they're only at 23%.
Well,
They
it's
are like
our tier 1.
our tier one.
I should explain it a little better. The number of kids at each grade level as kids exit the system gets a little less. So if we have 300 in kindergarten, let's say we have 200 in 8th grade, because kids exit the system or the program over time.
But if you have 200 in 8th grade, 23% is 46 students, let's say. So the percentage is based on the number of kids that are still in the program.
And that are performing at tier 1, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Then former ELs, so those are students who have exited or gotten a 4.8 or higher on their access test. You can see, now this is about 750 kids. This is quite positive data. As you can see, almost all grade levels are performing at or above that 80% that we're shooting for. So it tells us once kids work through the system and, in a sense, graduate out, however you want to define that, they perform pretty well on these standard assessments. And then I think our last slide is the panorama slide. And a comment, I think Dr. Sager made a comment of, I wonder if as the grade level increases, the amount of kids' sense of belonging goes down, and that's absolutely correct. You can see that over time. One positive piece by gathering this data that I noticed for our 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade, the highest sense of belonging ratings in the 4 years that we've completed this assessment. Coming off COVID and everything, that's pretty impressive. So again, our goal was to follow up on those questions. Thought it made a lot of sense to just quickly share here with the board. Then it's accessible to the public. We just added it to last October, the October presentation. And then all of our community members will also get access versus just throwing it in the Friday update.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions?
Quick question. With the panorama results, is there benchmark data with the national average to see if those older middle school children is that trending nationally? Or
Yeah, if you recall what they break it out by elementary grades 3 through 5 and 6 through 8. I think we're at 54% as our average as a district. That was at the 70th percentile for similar grade levels.
Okay.
So we're performing above average at that grade level. I think it was 74 or 76 for our 3 through 5, and that was at the 90th percentile.
Okay, can we go back to the math histogram?
The math histogram, sure. It's back there a little bit. That's, a couple more. There it is.
Okay, and so this shows the lift going to 80%, right? In that you have to take students from those first 2 bands there, and you have to shift them over. So it's not a matter of just moving 1 or 2 students. You have to basically shift all the students in that group over, which then gets enough of them above that line to get the total to 80%. And so this is what I wanted to see, because it
Yep.
tells us, are we real close to doing that, or does it take a lot of work? And to me, it looks like it takes a lot of work.
Yeah, yeah,
I-
yeah.
I-
If, let's say if these were right here,
Yeah, if all of them-
right on that edge, a few, points on an assessment, one or two more right, and now they're in the 26th
Yeah, which could just be them practicing the assessment. sort of thing,
Exactly.
right? So getting to 80% is a meaningful change. It is a big goal. So I don't want people to hear 80% and think 80% is not big. It's big.
And likely will take time.
Yeah.
And will take time. And we'll have a chance in probably February to come back and share how we did in the December. We're going to benchmark for winter in December, so we get that data a little earlier, so we can really dig into it, and we'll come back and see our progress. We'll also be able to see some individual kids' growth and stretch goals. That's one piece that we obviously don't have in the first iteration, but we can do in the second.
I think Dr. Sager's got it right where we're trying to shift more to the right, but I think we want to see the whole, everything move to the right.
Right.
That's not, let's not work at this. Let's see the whole thing move. So we see a reverse where we see more at the lower end and at the other end we see the higher side of it.
I appreciate that there's recognition that it is a bit of a lift. It's going to take some time.
Oh, yeah.
And, we talked about sharing this type of slide, and I think Dr. Bresnahan said, hey, we're all about being transparent. Let's show where our kids are at. And then we know the work we have to do versus, hoping. But the work is happening. Our kids are doing great, and our staff are, as you know, doing everything they can to move kids down the path.
And to also reiterate, this is a 3-year plan. This is not going to change overnight. It'll take some time, but I think we're on the right path. So,
And can we go one more slide?
Forward, backwards?
This one? Either one of those. So the really important thing to get from these slides is not necessarily the numbers, but look at the total number of students in each sample. We're checking more of our students, right? So we're getting a better picture for how the district as a whole is doing instead of just a sample of the students, which may or may not be.
And actually, I'm glad you pointed that out. I have in my notes and didn't say it. So you'll notice here we have 55-44. Here it's 46-13. The way Branching Minds works, any kids who have left the district since last spring, so like all of our 8th graders, any kid that has moved gets pulled out. So that 46-13 is represented in this number, and then this is any new kids. So Tricia Senni, our coordinator of literacy or of assessment and MTSS, often says this is like comparing a green apple to a red apple. It's really close, but it's not a red apple to a red apple.
But then if you go to the next one, it's fall, right?
But fall of 2019-20, so you could say
Right.
now we dropped to 36-82 because we've got 2 years of kids exiting compared.
I see what you're saying.
So
Okay, so it's not saying what I thought it was, which was
Maybe
that
not.
we were I thought we were sampling a larger amount of the students, but it's saying as we go backwards in time, we have less historical data for those students.
it removes kids who have exited the system.
Yes,
So we're comparing basically all new kids and kids still in the system between these numbers. And we assess basically every single kid we can on these benchmark assessments every year.
Okay, and then the last thing was for the English learners. We had
This
students who are currently in the program is this group, right?
Correct.
And then if we go to the next group, those are students who've exited the program.
Correct.
Do we have the combination of the two, essentially? If a student starts in our English learner program, where do they wind up? I think it's the sum of these two.
Got it. So anyone who is either currently or formerly an EL student.
Right.
What does that data look like?
Yeah, because former students are obviously going to perform well because that's why they're former
Sure.
students, right? They passed out of the system, but it'd be nice to see.
Yes, we can combine those two and
assuming
share
they
that.
start, assuming they start in the program, where do they wind up?
Okay.
But yeah, otherwise I'm very happy with.
All right,
the
wonderful.
progress on the histograms and such.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Before we begin the board appreciation, I do want to appreciate and recognize Janet I do want to recognize Janet, Eleni, and Ron on the successful audit and the hard work they put into it. I was remiss to say it earlier, so I appreciate your work. Thank you. I'm glad you stayed around so I can say that. With that, I think we're on to 7.03 Board Appreciation. I'm assuming that's you.
That's me. And I don't know if I could say it any better than our students who came before me or to our public comments that came tonight. That was just, I think they said it all very well. You have just some small tokens of appreciation at your table tonight. I truly want our community to know that these are volunteers. These are people selected by their community to serve their community. They are my 7 bosses, and I could not be happier. It has been such a collaborative partnership, and these are 7 people who I know care deeply about this community, about these students, about our fiscal responsibility towards our taxpayers, to creating a better and brighter future for everyone in District 59. And I'm very proud to serve on behalf of this board and just want to say my deepest thank yous. It is an honor and a privilege to work with each of you. So thank you.
Thank you.
We're on to discussion items. The first discussion item is 8.01, the program fee for preschool students at the ELC.
Thank you, Board of Education. Dr. Bresnahan. So for the discussion of the program fee for the preschool students, the administration is recommending a 0% increase for this fee. We're talking about, though, subsidizing the tuition depending on family income and utilizing the building more to our advantage of having more children involved. The district is going to investigate additional changes in order to maximize the preschool program to its fullest capacity.
I think the key word that Dr. Bresnan uses is remove the barriers. So we can help those students that really could, give them more leg up with what the Early Learning Center was designed for.
Do we know, and it might be premature, I know there's discussions at the federal level to provide free preschool, and if that goes, how it will impact us here?
Yeah, I think that has been a discussion and a hot topic since our governor took office, and I think opportunities for expansion of pre-K grants and funding have happened over the last several years. I think that's something that we would have to really look at because we serve the unique capacity of our early learning center is that we really try to promote a blended model. So we service as a priority our students who have developmental delays or any type of special needs, that we're able to provide early interventions for those students. But we also want to create it in a blended model where we have some of our typically developing students as well to be in those classes. So we're really looking at whatever opportunities we can. If there are expansions of preschool funding at a state level, hopefully it would be something that would reduce or eliminate the requirements for tuition. But obviously, looking at our capacity within that building and other opportunities and partnerships throughout the community, I think would need to be explored.
Sure.
Any additional questions?
Ron, I just wondered if you could give us a picture of what the total enrollment at the ELC is, because it looks like from this 70 typically developing students, and then the students who are receiving intervention or other services. Do you have a sense of what the ratio is?
That I could not give you, but I'm trying to think if I can get back to you guys on that one for
In
sure.
the weekly, perhaps.
Yeah, because I definitely don't want to guess on the number for that.
Yeah.
Can you actually put it, like, when you do put out, like, here's the capacity, here's, what percentage usage we're doing and from both those typical developing and then those that are, needing special assistance,
Yeah, definitely. I can break it
Yeah.
down by grade level as well.
age level?
And I do think that, what we look at now and then what we look at historically and at capacity are going to be important comparison numbers, because it is a building that was, I think, greatly impacted by the pandemic. and capacity to have students in that facility. So I know that we've seen a dip in our numbers based on that, so we'll look at historical, current, as well as capacity.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Item 8.02, K through 8 instructional material fees for school year 22-23.
So this one's pretty straightforward. Last year, the district decided that we were going to eliminate instructional materials fees, and administration would like to continue that trend for all of our students.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, and just to recap that's 2 years ago we were charging parents. It was like 30, yeah.
It's right there, yeah.
Yeah, $30 give or take, plus more, for materials and things. We eliminated it last year. We'll eliminate it again this year. Okay.
Yeah, and I just wanted to reiterate, before 2002, there was no such fee, right? So this is our historical data. For some reason, it was there for a while, and I think people in the finance committee were very sort of wondering why it was still around, sort of question. And I also wanted to point out, this does not include the technology insurance. So parents still do pay money in, because I pay fees on my students' computers every year to make sure that the technology insurance pool is paid in if they break the computer or something. So this number is set to 0, but not all numbers are set to 0.
Right.
But what you pay in is voluntary, correct?
Right, but if my kid breaks their computer, I'm stuck paying for it, right?
But do all parents realize that if they were to do that, they would be protecting themselves?
We get communications on it every year at the beginning of the year, yeah.
I also add, while we're talking about technology, when it comes to during COVID, when we were using hotspots, there were no charges to that at the time. In fact, that was utilized out of the emergency connectivity fund, so there was no extra dollars that was spent on that. This was something that I will work with Mr. Gray and Ms. Savage, Ms. Kathy Savage, on to ensure that whatever hotspots are out there are being utilized, and if they are, okay. If not, maybe we have to bring them back in.
Yeah, but is that any cost to the district at all right now? It comes out of emergency funds somewhere.
Right. There's several $1 billion from the federal government as of right now, but we still want to make sure that we're diligent with
Right.
just making sure we're there.
And it's not funds we could spend on anything else.
Correct.
Specifically for hotspots. This was my question later on about the disbursements, is what, presumably 214 paid to get Wi-Fi in the trailer parks, so some of our hotspots maybe are not necessary anymore, and we should think about starting to phase them out.
Okay.
Item 8.03, if there are no more, was, well, one thing I do want to add is if you pull up the facility and finance meeting minutes from last Monday's meeting, you'll see comparisons to what other districts are charging for fees. So some districts are charging some significant amount of fees and stuff like that, and I'm just thankful that we were able to offer this to our students. No material fees at all. I think it's important, especially at this time of the, families are still struggling from COVID and stuff like that, and, job losses and stuff. So I think it's important to remind that we are kind of walking the line of no fees when neighboring districts around us are charging fees. With that, item 8.03, junior high school extracurricular participation fees.
So this is another example of us at least looking at a freeze. We don't feel the need to raise anything for our students and giving them an opportunity to do something that is extracurricular.
And there is the opportunity for a fee waiver if a parent cannot.
I'm sorry?
I was going to say, that's an application basis, right? Above and
Correct, yeah.
beyond.
That's just like the free reduced lunch piece where if someone were to apply.
Okay.
I apologize, Dr. President. I didn't mean to interrupt there.
Yeah. This fee is not meant to, you know, it's helped to subsidize the cost of the program, not to fully cover the program. But it's something that's, like I said, it's extra, it's outside of the normal school thing. That's why we feel it's something we can charge, help defer some of those costs.
As a parent of 3, I can assure you that living in Elk Grove, District 59, it's an amazing blessing for the fact that we are able to do this for our families, especially with how we're being smart and efficient with our finances, and we're trying to take care of everybody else too.
Yeah, I appreciate the no increase in the fees and just want to continue to make sure that families are aware that a fee waiver application process is available to them if it poses difficulty.
Are there any other questions or comments? Nope. Thank you, Ron. Okay, moving right along. Item 9.0, the consent agenda. Can I get a motion, please?
I'll do it. Be it resolved that on the 8th day of November 2021, Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education approve the consent agenda as presented and amended. 9.01, approval of minutes, prior meetings. 9.02, disbursements resolution. 9.03, acceptance of financial reports. 9.04, acceptance of recommendations, human resource report. 9.05, approval to destroy 18-month or older closed session recordings. And 9.06, approval to release certain closed session minutes.
Question, did you have a question? I know Courtney had a question,
I had a couple
right?
of questions on the human resources report. Should we do those now?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
So one of them is I just noted, and I suppose this is for Ross, I noted in the human resources report that there were a number of teachers' assistant resignations, and I just wondered if this is something we should be concerned with or a trend that we're seeing. Your thoughts on it?
I appreciate the question. In reviewing the consent agenda, I believe there was a typo. In section B, it is now corrected and says ESP compensation notifications. So those there's 3 of those 4 names that say resignation. That's the reason why there's an opening and why we're hiring those individuals. So I apologize for that miscommunication. I can also share that those were resignations at the end of last year. And so as we're still coming into knowing what our needs are with changing enrollment, those principals, the ELC is a good example of 2 of those. You can see they are now in a place where they have a strong candidate to hire. There are 2 actual ESP resignations on the consent agenda, and they are more typical personal health type choices in terms of their resignation.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
then the other question I had was just related to substitute teacher needs. I've just had some questions from the community recently about the status of our substitute teachers and just concerns that at some of their local schools, interventionists and people who ideally would be serving in that specific role were having to step in and fill in for substitutes. I know it's not a unique problem to us in any respect, but I just wondered the status of substitute availability.
I'm happy to speak to that. Actually, I have notes for during the superintendency team report.
Oh,
If
perfect.
you prefer, I wait until that.
Let's do that.
Okay, thank
Yep.
you.
Thanks.
Are there any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Roll call, please.
Mancia.
Aye.
Petrielli, aye. Reed.
Aye.
Sager.
Aye.
Schumacher.
Aye.
Espino.
Aye.
And Lang.
Aye.
And the motion passes.
Okay. Action items 10.01, approval of award of bid for paper bid summary. Can I get a motion, please?
I can do it. Whereas bids were opened on September 27th, 2021 for paper, and whereas 2 bids were received with the lowest conforming bid submitted by Staples Contract and Commercial LLC, now therefore be it resolved on the 8th day of September 2021, the Board of Education of CCSD59 awards Staples Contract and Commercial LLC for $75,123 for xerographic paper and $12,650.50 for vellum, for a grand total of $87,773.50.
Can I get a second, please?
I'll second.
Any questions, comments? Now, I know, oh,
I was gonna just ask a question, Ron. How confident are we that we're going to have paper supply?
I think the question is toner supplies.
Well, toner is the other issue, yeah.
I have been in contact with Konica Minolta almost every day. And the toner we're looking at, I would say the end of November. That's what they were mentioning. As for paper, I think we'll be fine. I just, once those ships somehow get figured out and everything else, but I know toner better than paper.
And so I guess, Ron, just to follow up on that, this paper contract, we're not bound to a specific minimum amount. So we order as need be. So were we to have a toner shortage that prohibited us from using paper, we could accept less.
Correct. We're not tied into anything numbers-wise.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks.
Do we have buildings that do not have toner?
We have, actually not yet. So right now we are battling with Konica Minolta to make sure that we do get that on time. I have to actually give Tech a huge round of applause because they've been on that and making sure that the machines do have some set aside. So it's been taken care of, but the lead times were so bad compared to years past that that's what our concern was. And Konica Minolta says, well, you don't need it yet. And we're like, well, you don't know because based on the volume from the prior year, that was COVID, so you really couldn't tell us what you think you know. So it's been more of a give and take with us and almost a negotiation when it's like, we want your product, just give it to us and we'll pay you. So that's what we're in. I mean, we were in a 45-minute conversation last week about toner, and currently, I'll tell you right now, Konica Minolta is working on some sort of financial package to give to us for being so nice to them about this.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Petrielli, aye. Reed?
Aye.
Sager?
Aye.
Schumacher?
Aye.
Espino?
Aye.
Lang?
Aye.
And Mencia.
Aye.
And the motion passes.
Action item 10.02, report and authorization to file the annual financial report for 2021.
I'll make the motion.
I can second it.
Whereas on the 8th day of November 2021, the Board of Education has reviewed the Community Consolidated School District 59 Annual Financial Report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2021, as presented. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of Community Consolidated School District 59 accepts the annual financial report as final and authorizes the filing of the AFR to the Illinois State Board of Education in accordance with 105 ILCS 5/3-7.
I'll do the second. Any questions? I know we asked them earlier, but any follow-up questions? Roll call, please.
Reed?
Aye.
Sager?
Aye.
Schumacher?
Aye.
Espino?
Aye.
Lang?
Aye.
Mencia?
Aye.
Petrielli, aye. And the motion passes.
Item 11.0, special interest topics. FOIA requests.
Good evening. We had 4 requests sent to the district, very typical requests since my last report to the board, and they have all been responded to appropriately.
Can I ask this question now about the transportation, or is that going to be part of the superintendent reports? Because now we have a FOIA, now we have a FOIA by the bus company. We have to go out to a bid on that now?
That was not a FOIA. It was a company that once they inquire about transportation, once you're on a year-to-year contract with it, when you initially start, it's several years, and then you get 2 years, and then it's a year-to-year if you want to keep renewing. Well, a certain company reached out to us and inquired, asking, hey, we'd like to do this. We'd like to bid. So how would we go about that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the Illinois statute, it's supposed to be some sort of formal request to the board. However, playing it legally and transparently, we figured, well, we should do this then instead, just because it's not for playing games. It's something that, it's a business, it's a big deal for us, it's safe for our children, we need to make sure of that, and that's what happened.
Okay, so then we'll be putting out a bid for next fiscal year, or,
Yeah, it'll be effective July 1,
okay?
so that'll be another fun project.
Because I know, because right now we spend what, about $6.5 million on bus transportation or so? But that's what our budget is right now?
Well, that's the budget now. Right now, a lot of companies, I've heard anywhere from 5 to 10% increases for the next year. And I'm not very thrilled with it, but we just have to see what happens.
Well, I mean, besides busing, what their next biggest cost is their labor, and when you're offering $25 an hour to try and get bus drivers, you can't find them, I'm assuming their costs are gonna go up.
Yeah, one company in
And gas
particular.
prices aren't helping either.
No, that and Amazon is currently taking drivers from other bus companies, because if you notice, there are some hubs that are in the area where they can get the same-day delivery, so we're paying for it on that end.
So should we be concerned that we may not get enough people bidding for the contract, or is that?
We'll probably have our incumbents bid. In fact, I know they will, because they've already expressed interest in that. So we'll see. I'm not sure how many we'll have, but we're going to make sure everybody gets that bid and that we get the best, most competitive offers.
Okay. Thank you. Item 12.0, new and continuing business and announcements. Do we have anything?
Are you going to, would you like to do the resolutions for the IASB at this point?
That's next, Mardell.
Okay.
So, report to the Board of Education, so 13.01. You're looking like a question, Patty?
No, I stopped at Grove the other day, just because. And they had some really cute things going on, like they had a group of their ukulele players go to the front office just for like a pop-in to play a song. I got to sit down with the principal and talk to him. Well, that's partly because I've known him for so long, but seeing how the school has changed over time and improvements that they've done over at the building, and it was really nice. So I just wanted to give a junior high a shout out.
So I think we'll move on. I'm going to share my stuff after Mardell's, the
Yeah,
resolutions
we'll let
discussion.
Mardell go.
Okay.
So 13.01, ISAB Resolutions Committee Report. For those of you listening in from the public and in the crowd, we have our upcoming annual ISAB conference in the city of Chicago the weekend before Thanksgiving. And one of the things that we do is we look at different resolutions of things that we want the ISB to work with the government on trying to adopt or implement. And this is some of the discussion we'll be having now, talking about those different topics that they're looking to support or not support. With that,
Did any of you take the time to read any of the resolutions and decide if you agreed with the perspective of IASB? All right, did anybody disagree with any of the perspectives of IASB?
Yep.
I did
Yep.
too. I did too. Shall we go through each one and see? I spent considerable time reading every one of them very, very carefully, and I listened to a webinar from IASB about it. However, I must tell you that the webinar was a waste of time, because all they did was tell you what their preferences were. So I didn't really learn anything new from it, but I did spend the time doing it. Okay, the first one is on pre-service teacher training, and they said yes, and I agreed. Is there anybody else who disagreed? Number one.
and this is mostly about requiring teachers to have additional education before getting their license, correct?
Let me ask a clarifying question. Do we as a board need to make a decision on these tonight,
Well,
or?
we have to give Mardell, because
I
Mardell's our,
need it for
Mardell's our representative for the
Yeah.
committee and for the,
I mean, I'm perfectly willing to go along with what I believe, but I want to listen to anybody
Right.
else because I may not. I
we,
mean,
and
I'm
we
not
give
voting
her
for myself.
direction
Yeah.
to vote on our behalf.
Okay, the second one, they said no, and I agreed no. Is there anybody who disagreed with number 2, which had to do with student safety and protection plan? It has to do with using guns, having guns in our schools, and I did
So,
not.
so Mardell, they actually went with yes on their recommendation?
Pardon me?
Their recommendation was yes. Now, I don't agree with it, but.
I don't agree with it either. I
Right.
said no.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, I will say, from my perspective, I do not want guns in our schools, in our district.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But I know we discussed this a couple years ago, and I do not want to tell another district how they think they can keep their students safe. We are lucky being in a community and municipality with our Elk Grove, Des Plaines, Arlington Heights, Mount Prospect. Our police stations are quite close and located to near our schools, where some of our schools in our more rural areas do not have that access to nearby fire department, police stations, stuff like that, that could take them up to 15, 20, 30 minutes to respond to an emergency. And, from my perspective, I don't want to tell another how they can protect their kids if they need to protect their kids. So, with that said, I kind of recommend, I agree with their do not adopt.
I think
Is there
you
anybody who
agreed
wants
do
somebody to
adopt.
have a gun
Is
in
it-
You
no,
agree
it's-
to adopt?
Well, they have the recommendation, do adopt.
Yes.
Because the idea of the resolution is that on a voluntary basis, these school districts can choose to do it. So you
Right.
would support with do adopt?
Yes.
I'm with Joseph that I would recommend we do not adopt, just from the standpoint of I'm concerned about the presence of firearms at any schools in Illinois, regardless of the training that is offered. I just don't think that
I agree with
firearms
you.
have a place at school.
And this doesn't apply to SROs or anything like that. This is other individuals.
I have that they did not, they advised not to.
They advise not to? I thought
Number
they-
3, doesn't it say do not?
We're on 2.
This is 2.
Oh. And they said to do adopt, but we all agree that we don't want guns, correct? So you all want to go with number 2, not to adopt?
No,
No guns.
no gun.
Okay, very good. Next one, school board compensation. And they said to adopt.
Did they say?
No, they said do not adopt.
They said do not adopt.
Yeah.
And I agree.
I agree.
We're
Agree.
volunteers. But-
We're volunteers,
Yep.
yes.
Exactly, I agree.
Why
But then-
change it now?
Yeah, and then the next one I think is
Yes.
good, though.
Number 4, paying for child care.
So this is for childcare for board members.
Mm-hmm.
You could get compensation as part of your service. So you're not getting anything extra, it's just you have to have somebody watch your kids while you're at a board meeting or doing a board function. You could apply to get some
Yeah.
And they say
reimbursement.
I don't
do
know.
adopt, but
Yeah.
I personally don't think we should.
This-
Oh,
and-
I think we should, because having parents on the board is important, and being able to go to board meetings, attend board functions is important.
It is, but I mean, I don't know, I'm kind of on the opposite side of it. I think there are other people in our district that need childcare more than we do.
Yeah, but maybe that's why some other people aren't in this room.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with
That's true.
Joseph
I
that
think if there's a
I'd like the
project that we're
opportunity
doing
to
where-
apply for it for those who might be incentivized to be on the board if they had it in place.
Well, but there are many, many people in our district, and if you have children and you can't afford to take care for them yourself, you could wait until your children are beyond that point, which is what I did. I didn't become a board member when I had small children. And if you have, but you have somebody to take care of them, I don't know, it seems to me that it's a voluntary position. You know what the time commitment is, you know what the situation is. If you can't afford it, then you shouldn't run for the office.
But financially and childcare should not be a barrier. I'll use Dr. Bergeron, should not be a barrier.
Yeah.
You know, we want people, if people want to be involved as a board member, run as a board member, because they have a child that needs care, should not prevent them from being, I don't want to use discriminate, but basically prevent them from being a board member. If that's the deciding factor of them running for a board and not running for a board, I don't want to see that barrier there. So
we
I
just-
completely agree with Joe and Courtney that we should adopt.
Should we take a quick straw poll on this one, just to
But
see where the board
While you have
stands?
small children, you could be, you can be involved with the PTOs, you can be involved with the schools because they're your children. So perhaps you should put off your, if you can't afford it, then you should put off your idea of what you want to do and think about your own children first. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, but there should also be that option that we have a younger voice coming in, and that having children shouldn't prevent them from being a part of that younger voice, because they do have a stake in the game. They have their children in the district, and who would know better how the schools and everything are running than the people that are directly connected. That's why I wanted to stay subbing. I mean, I wanted to still be in the district.
And I guess I would give myself as an example, because my husband regularly has Monday evening board meetings, and so we have paid a babysitter on Monday nights, and I consider myself lucky enough to be in a 2-income household where paying a babysitter if we both have a board meeting isn't an issue. But there was also a time where I was a stay-at-home parent and our income is not what it is today, and I wouldn't want to see someone in my shoes prevented from participating because
Yep.
it costs them $100 to have a babysitter on a Monday night.
I know, it's tough, and I just think it's a slippery slope once we start taking money from taxpayers to use for the benefits of our household. You know, thinking of a lot of the comments we received over the past year, just the misconceptions of we pay your salary and those types of comments that we received, even though they're incorrect, that we are volunteers. I just think it's a slippery slope as far as opening up the door for us to receive taxpayer funding for those types of expenses. I don't know. I mean, it's just I'm not 100% comfortable with it.
I agree with you.
Yeah, but we're not all supposed to
No,
agree
it's a-
on everything.
Should we just
So,
do
I mean,
a quick,
that's why.
quick vote? Just
Yeah,
so we-
I think, so I think there's those that want to adopt, and i.e. allow board members that get compensated for babysitting would be the first one. Who agrees with that one? And those that would say no on the compensation?
What was the vote? Is this for or
This is
against?
four, this is
Four,
four. Yes,
number four,
yes for
yeah.
compensation,
Babysitting.
and no would been Robert and Mardell.
And just to be clear for anyone who is listening to this, because I think it was a major education for me the first time I participated in this IASB, resolution and delegate assembly, is that these are merely recommendations that we vote on for the Illinois Association of School Boards to then take a position on when they
Lobby.
lobby and express their platform to the state. And so in no way is our decision here definitive of anything.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like even when Mardell goes and represents this board before the delegate assembly, even that decision is
It
not
doesn't matter
putting
whether
anything
they
into law.
put through with or without our agreement, we don't have to do what they say.
Yeah.
You're
So-
right.
And furthermore, what they say doesn't change the law or doesn't change whether the school
right.
board members get
right.
compensation for this. It would ultimately have to be state law that actually changed to allow this.
So,
So you want to vote against,
no, we want to support this.
support it,
Yeah,
okay?
and if we take a few minutes to read this, it basically says, be resolved that the Illinois Association of School Boards shall support and advocate for legislation that allows for board members to be reimbursed for child care costs as a result of participation in board meetings. So basically, it's saying, we're going to ask the ISAB to, petition the state to look for approval to do this kind of stuff. Doesn't mean it's going to get done, but it's going to be something that we're going to try and ask for support to get done. So,
Okay, number 5, remote virtual school board open meetings. We've already been doing that, so I assume everybody is in agreement with that one?
No, not, I kind of,
I didn't like it.
I mean,
Just because I thought it was, I thought the way it was written, it was too open-ended and allowed for just kind of, because we feel like having remote meetings. I
Instead of
think
when
there,
we really need to.
yeah, I think there's value in having people here.
Yeah.
and-
Oh, I
and
agree
so
with that.
I'm kind of with the Joe's philosophy on this. I mean, when we had to be in lockdown, we were virtual. Now that we're not, and we have students in schools, I think as board members, we should be at the
here.
board meeting.
Right. But does this, voting to adopt, as they ask us to do, does that mean we have to do this, or does it, I read it as we have to, we did it, we should do it when it's a necessity?
No, I think they were gonna then advocate for more options to do remote, rather than when it's forced by COVID or something like that. And I just thought it was too open-ended. I thought,
Okay,
if
so
it's like an emergency, a major storm, we had
Right.
tornadoes the one day, that would be fine, but it's,
Like a child home sick, I need to stay home with my sick child, example, because we just talked about child care, but if I'm home, have to stay home with my child because they came sick at the last minute, you know, I could theoretically still attend the meeting and be a voting
If you have a
participant.
problem, if a board member has a problem, we could come in
Right, and that's,
virtually, yeah.
and I think we should be at board meetings.
So what do you want me to do on this one?
I'm recommendation of do not adopt, but I don't know what the rest of the board is feeling like.
Yeah, I do think it remains a bit vague because it says with appropriate guardrails, so I'm just not sure
Yeah,
what
that's what I
exactly
didn't
they
like.
plan. So I think personally, I would want that fleshed out more. So I am a do not adopt with Joe and
Patty
Randy.
and
Yeah,
Robert?
as it's written, I would say do not adopt.
Okay. Fine. Number 6. Reorganize the board from, instead of requiring it to be done in 28 days, we can move it off to 40 days.
yes. That would have not, then you wouldn't have had to move the May board meeting.
Right.
Because that happened to us this year.
And they suggest
Yeah.
that we do adopt that, and
Yeah.
I agree.
I agree. It gives
Everybody
us
agree?
more time to do a
Everybody agree?
training that is
Okay.
before the board members are sworn in.
We do have a lot, so let's see if we can speed these up just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, number 7, Indigenous People Curriculum Inclusion. And they suggest that we do adopt. Anybody disagree?
No,
No.
disagree.
No, when I thought I did do it, so. keep it going.
We agree to adopt it.
Yeah.
Is there, because I mean, there's 22
Right, well,
of
the-
these.
starting at number 18, it's reaffirmation. So
Is it,
Yeah.
is it easy? Oh, okay. 'Cause
We'll-
I was
we-
gonna
we'll
say, is
stop
it
at
easier to
least-
do like a Google
We'll stop
poll?
want to do a Google thing for the rest of them?
And then we all just vote and then we send Mardell, here are the results?
Why not just finish this now?
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to go through, I would think if we speed it up a little bit,
I don't think there's that many
Yeah.
that we're gonna have to argue over. Did we agree on the indigenous?
7, yes, agree?
Yeah.
We recommend
All right,
adopt.
Agree with
excellent.
recommendation.
Science of reading curriculum, and they say, do not adopt.
I agree.
You think we should?
I agree, do not adopt.
Do not adopt?
Do not adopt.
Yes.
Okay. How do you, I actually thought it was,
It minimizes the board's ability to govern curriculum.
do not adopt is what you're
Do not
saying.
adopt.
Yeah, that's what I said too. Did you agree?
Yes.
Okay, all right, do not adopt on number 8. Number 9, health and sex education curriculum, and they say we should adopt. I personally agree.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
Anybody
Yep.
disagree? Okay. Number 9, yes. Number 10, cannabis sales.
I kind of have a issue with this one. I'm not a fan of the, whole cannabis being legalized and then to collect taxes on it and then use it for education. What kind of message does that send?
I-
That's what I thought the village made a mistake on too, so.
I have the exact opposite, which is I have no problem with cannabis legalization. I have a problem with us earmarking funds for education when education should come out of the general fund. It should just be, education is funded by the taxpayers, not because we sell cannabis.
So I'll ask this, I'll just play, what about the lotteries? Wasn't a lottery implemented to support education? But I don't want to go down that slippery slope.
This is my objection, right? We come up with, oh, this money is going to be earmarked for education, then we can kind of remove a little bit on the back end.
Right.
And it's just a way of sneaking stuff out. I don't like it.
I don't like it, but I guess I decided that if it's going to be a rule and it's available and it can be used, why not use the money that you get from it?
Yeah, because this is saying 20% of state tax revenues from cannabis sales to public education programs to support youth development, violence prevention, and health education. So that money's already there. People are already buying the cannabis, and we're just
Right.
advocating to get funding from it. It's another funding resource.
But I think Joe's concern is if they start funding it through the cannabis tax money, do they stop funding through the general fund then? And then at some point,
And then we're subject to how well were cannabis sales last year. And
Exactly.
We're going to get the schools are going to have to be out there, advocating for more sales, which is not going to look good, right? So let's not do that.
So do you want to take a vote?
They they recommend adopt. I am fine with that. I recommend adopt. That's just me.
Why don't we take a straw poll of everyone? So who's in favor of adopting?
Anybody who doesn't want to adopt? 3 don't want to
4.
adopt?
4.
4, so 4 wins.
Okay.
Don't adopt. Yep.
All
Do
right.
not adopt.
I voted to adopt.
Yep.
Right.
Who were the 4 who voted not to adopt?
Daisy, me and Joe.
Okay.
The
I do.
4
All right.
on the end.
Yeah, because
So
I was
the no.
just, I'm
Okay.
abstaining from that one.
All right, number 11, the
Well,
Clean
that's it.
Energy Infrastructure Federal Funding. Federal funding to school districts for clean energy infrastructure, including but not limited to solar panels, geothermal heating and cooling, and wind turbines. And they say, do
No.
Do not adopt.
not adopt on number 11.
I think the government's already doing this. I mean, there's already stuff out there
Yeah.
for this. I think this is asking just for more potential funding. Because we're considering solar panels with some federal support and state support.
With the remaining, why don't we read the topic of what it is?
Yep.
And the recommendation, and then just see, does anyone disagree with the recommendation of
Okay.
this? And then we can do.
Let's do it.
All right, number 11 is do not adopt. Is there anybody who wants to adopt this?
No, I think we all agree.
Okay, so
Mhm.
it'll be a no.
Mm-hmm. And then 12.
12 is also a do not adopt, and that's electric school buses, charging stations, federal funding.
Mm-hmm.
Do not adopt according to them.
Okay.
I would prefer we do adopt.
We got 1,
For our district, it makes sense.
I'm actually
2.
the same.
Do adopt.
3.
All right, take a vote.
Who is in
Who's-
favor?
Who's the do adopt?
Do adopt.
4. Okay, so it wins.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. 13, federal landscape funding. Do not adopt according to them.
No,
No,
just
do adopt.
Do adopt.
Oh, do adopt, I'm sorry. I was the one who said not adopt. I was looking at my
So who
notes.
agrees?
I don't think we have to.
We
Yeah.
do adopt?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm fine
Bike
with
pass.
I'm fine
I'm
with
fine
that.
with it.
2, 3. Yeah, we have 4.
Yes or
so
no,
that's
are
a
you
yes.
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 Do adopt.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to adopt?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
14, expand broadband internet access. They recommend do adopt.
And it's presumably moot, right?
Okay, 14, expanding the
Mhm.
broadband internet access, and they say do adopt.
Yep.
Yep.
Anybody who
Yep.
doesn't agree?
Yep.
Okay, so it's a yes. 15, child safe gun storage.
Yeah, do not adopt.
Do not
Do not
adopt.
adopt. Consistent
Yep.
with them.
I personally think there should be laws for
Yeah.
very safe. I know of cases where there have been guns in houses and they've been in a drawer, but it hasn't been
Yep.
safe storage and,
Nope.
Yeah.
and they've shot, kids have found them and they've
Yeah.
shot.
There should be, but that's someone else's.
Yeah,
Yep.
is that an
jurisdiction to
ISB,
make sure that
ISB?
that gets
Nope,
done.
or is it
exactly.
ISBA?
You don't think there
Make
should
sure.
be safe storage of
Oh, I
guns?
do
Absolutely.
think, I just think
Oh,
someone
but-
else, not the
but-
school board should
not a
be
school board.
lobbying for it. Let gun safety.
But why should we not lobby for it? This one I feel very strongly
Oh,
about.
sure, no, I get it.
I just think that guns should be, with the way guns are being used these days, if we
Mhm.
don't make it as safe as possible in the homes,
Yep.
accidents will happen.
Okay, let's take a vote. So we have the,
ISB says do not adopt.
who says do not adopt? That's,
Okay, I guess you go with it.
okay. And the last
But
one
let's
is
hope
the
it never happens in your house.
No, I understand.
the school code review, do not adopt?
Yep,
Yep,
Agree.
okay.
all right. The amended existing positions, I don't think we need to change them. I quickly read through them. There's nothing earth-shattering in those.
There's only one I would object to, which is 22, which is where you're not allowed to give zeros to students. They must be given the ability to make up material. Maybe okay for elementary and junior high, but for high schools, I disagree. And so I would just make that point.
Are we skipping ahead now, or are we not going?
No,
There was just one more.
Yeah, I think the
There was
rest-
just an existing one I objected to out of principle, and that's
I'm
fine.
either way on that one, too. I mean, I think students learn more when they fail once in a while.
I agree.
But I think the teachers can handle that their own ways. I know my daughter gets makeup tests for everything she takes in high school level anyways. So, you got your marching orders now, Mardell?
Whatever you tell me, whatever you want me to do, I'm just your representative.
Okay, but you got our votes and stuff, right?
Which one are we moving all the way to
No,
20?
we're gonna stop at 17, because they're just amending existing positions.
Oh, you want to go back? And
No, I think we're good. I think we went through the 16 we really needed to go through.
Okay.
Yep, from 18 on, I think it's just follow the recommendations.
Yeah,
And I
follow
just
the
didn't like one of the recommendations and wanted to
16
raise a
was
stink.
do not adopt. I agree. Is there anyone who doesn't agree with
No,
16?
I think we agree with all the rest of them.
Oh, you agree with everything else?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do our friends in the meeting want us to begin all over? We can start over.
Yeah.
Number one.
All right. Item 14.0, superintendent reports. Oops.
Does anyone else have any reports of the board?
Oh, yeah.
I do.
I do. Go
You
ahead.
go ahead.
Robert. No, go ahead. I've been talking. Go
The,
ahead.
no, just real quick, I did participate in the Bilingual Parents Advocate Committee?
BPAC.
BPAC, Advisory Committee, BPAC, this week, or 2 weeks ago, which was good, but I think there's opportunities as to best ways to communicate what BPAC is, what its purpose is, and why we need parents to be involved in BPAC. So BPAC should have a board, it should have a president, it should have a secretary from, community members. But I just think there's a lot of folks in our community that don't know that, or don't know that they can get involved there. So I think it's really important that we kind of stress those opportunities for our parents to get involved. Because I know if I wasn't on the board and I heard about that, that's probably something I would want to be on. So it was a good discussion, but we could have used more parents there and just kind of promoted it, I think, a little more. That's just my 2 cents.
Were the parents pretty much agitated, or were they?
No, there was only, it was Daisy and I were there, and 2 other parents were there, along with Dr. Bresnan was there as well. But the parents had good feedback, but, it's a small sample size, so if we could get more involvement there, we should, so that was, that's my 2 cents on that.
Okay, well, I attended a long time ago, because time is going by now, the North Cook meeting, and in the past, and it was very good meeting. All the officers spoke, and it was excellent. And one of the things I particularly liked about it, when the officers spoke, they went up to the microphone, they took off their mask and spoke. They did not speak with a mask on while they were alone at the microphone, and I think that's something that we should definitely consider for all of our SLT people, because this is going on longer and longer and longer. And as long as we wear masks when we are sitting near each other, if somebody goes to the microphone to make their report, it's important that we can understand them. So I think it's something we should do. And that was one of the things I noticed there. I also think that more board members should attend North Cook meetings like they have in the past. We've always had 2-3 people there at least, because more of your people who you are going to be sitting with and visiting with are from neighboring districts, because this is the North Cook district, and it's a good way to get acquainted with neighbors in neighboring districts. Then I also attended the IASB EdRed meeting, and that one was very interesting because I was approached by a lady who came and noticed my name tag and came and spoke to me, and she was one of Terry's old board members. So I invited all of them to sit with all of our people at the same table, so we had a little conflab between the two, the old district, the new district, their new superintendent was there, and one of her friends from the board was there, so that was very nice. The speaker was Senator Billy Ballum, and he couldn't make it that day, so he wasn't there. So they had him on screen, being sent into us virtually, I guess you'd call it, and it was excellent. They did such a good job that his face and head was so large, and he spoke, and that he was more than the normal sized person, and he could be easily understood because he was being beamed in. So it was an excellent meeting, and I liked his message. His message basically was that he's afraid that there are too many state mandates being put upon boards of education. And I thought that was excellent, because I couldn't tell you what they are right now, but I don't want the state to be mandating everything that happens within our district. So he was very good. It was an excellent, and we had a lot of people there, so it was a nice meeting. And I think that's about all I've got.
Well, I'll get to share, I got to be at Ridge last week, Wednesday, to be a guest reader.
Well, I get to do it this
And it was hard to follow, like our auditor had a hard time following the students. I had to follow Wayne and Garth Word, which was hilarious. Actually, that was, I think, much better and more entertaining for me than me actually reading. But it was really nice to actually be in the school and see our kids and some staff members. I also got to stop in and see Claremont, the remodel job at the Claremont before school opened. I also Albert took me over to Friendship for the work that's being done at Friendship. We've had some water damage that we're trying to take care of. We were going to take care of it next summer, but we decided to move it forward so we can get the gym completely fixed, so we can fix the gym over the summer and have that ready for when the school year starts in 2021. We have a temporary fix right now that works and allows them to have gym classes, but it won't last forever. And I also got stopped at Devonshire, or at Brentwood. I forgot to mention Brentwood to see their remodel as well too. That was nice. And then on Thursday, we get to be at Juliet Low for the Veterans Day celebration. So I'm looking forward to that as well too.
What was that?
On Thursday, Dr. President and I will be at Juliet Low for their Veterans Day. They're having a Veterans Day celebration in the morning.
Oh, I want to say one more thing.
Okay,
I
I'm done.
get to do Wednesday
Yeah.
at Ridge, and I'm excited to read the last 2 chapters of the book. Yoo-hoo, I get to seal it off. And then, but there's also Thursday, hopefully the rain holds off, because at Blackhawk, the Blackhawk Trailer Park, they're going to have a food truck between 3 and 4. So I was going to go and check that out, but I'm hoping, they're saying 90% rain, I'm hoping it doesn't mess it up, but they'll probably reschedule then, but I thought that was a really cool thing they were doing.
We will be having IASB convention downtown in Chicago before our next meeting also, and I believe you're going to be there on Saturday, and you're going to be there, what, Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
I got a class first thing on Friday morning. I have to be there at 8 on Friday morning.
Okay, and I'll be there for the whole time. And you'll be there for the whole time, right? Friday through Sunday. That's you're not, Saturday and Sunday. Okay, very good. And Bob?
I'll be there Saturday and Sunday.
Okay, very good. And as far as eating and spending money on food, you probably won't have to if you take advantage of the hospitality offerings from the various organizations. You'll find plenty of food, so you won't have to spend any money on food. So I'm hoping to look forward to seeing you down there.
Okay, we got quick NSSEO report. Last week we had our governing board meeting. We did all the same sort of stuff we do here, except our auditor, to request the budget be funded. They made the board members the shining stars of the week again, so I was embarrassed twice this week, you know, getting cupcakes. I got cupcakes there as well. So they're in the same situation as us, trying to locate bus drivers and staff for Kirk School, so they've had to increase their incentives to get them going. The last thing that they do at the end of the year is they also take any funds they haven't spent that were sent in by the member districts, and we get a refund, so we'll get a little bit of money back at the end of the year. And Mardell and I are going to go to the ELC next week for a tour before the IASB meeting. That's it.
Right. Sorry, quick shout out to Salt Creek and their trunk or treat. It was the first time I've ever attended one of those. I guess my kids never got involved in that, or I missed it somehow. But it was really awesome to see the card decorations and all the kids that were hanging around and stuff like that. It was actually pretty interesting. I think I convinced my wife that maybe we'll have to do it next year. With that, superintendent reports.
All right, so as promised, we're going to do this monthly. Hopefully, we will do these swiftly, but we want the opportunity for our SLT members to just share out orally updates on their work. As you know, the work that they do on a regular basis directly ties to the work of our strategic plan. So they're going to highlight just some of the key things that they've been working on, and then as how they align to the 4 goal areas of our strategic plan. So I'm going to turn it over to Tom to start, if that's okay.
Always okay. So just a few quick updates under the Goal 1, the aligned assessment system piece. So as I indicated earlier, we're preparing for winter benchmarking. That'll be December 6th through 17th, where all students will take the iReady assessments in reading and math. We'll also complete a number of progress monitoring benchmarks about that time. Last Friday, we met with synergy teams from each of our elementary schools and started planning for that, shared some information on preparation, organization, and some things we're talking how we can best prepare kids so they can do their best. Also, we've started to look at some dashboard options. A few weeks ago, we had ECRA out to meet with SLT and share some options that they have available. We're looking at 2 or 3 other groups to interact with as we seek out a dashboard. I think our goal is probably around spring break-ish to make a decision so we can really roll that out, and it'll be ready to go at the start of next year. I think those are my 2 main ones. I will share, and this is probably under someone else's, but we did have a great Institute Day today, and want to recognize Katie for organizing, Dr. Holly being here, Cindy Pullen for getting us into the Meridian with 400 people in the morning and the afternoon. That went really well. And Eddie Barrios from the tech department upstairs who recorded the session.
Quick question, state testing, report card has come up, partially come up, correct?
So far, on the 29th, they released basically just demographic data. I included that in the Friday update. And December 2nd, they'll release the actual IAR data. And we're talking about how we can best share that information with the board on or about the same time.
Under Goal 2, the inclusive learning environment, we have been doing quite a bit of work. As Tom mentioned, today we had an excellent session with Dr. Shiraki Holly on culturally and linguistically responsive classroom management, which ties to our earlier work this year with all of our staff on classroom climate and management planning. So that is the next step, which will be followed up by district PLTs in another session in April to continue on that journey of professional learning in terms of culturally and linguistically responsive teaching and learning. We have also been providing trauma-informed practices professional learning sessions for 2 of our elementary schools this year, which also includes environmental scans and focus groups as a pre- and post-assessment of mindset in terms of trauma-informed practices at schools. In terms of intervention and differentiation, we have been working from summer until now to research and adopt new materials and resources for Tier 3 math and reading intervention. And so we are beginning to provide trainings for our interventionists. We have another training coming up next week on those intervention materials and tools and how they can be utilized to best serve our students needing differentiated intervention and instruction. So those are primary updates for our work in terms of Goal 2, the inclusive learning environment.
My update for Goal 4, high quality staff. We're actually still filling a few positions given the staffing shortage, but we are making progress. We have stabilized our needs with the maintenance custodian and pretty much the teaching assistant job group. We're still in need for a couple hard to find special ed positions and nurses and also substitute teachers. To provide a little bit of information about subs, the good news is we are in great company across the country and having difficulty finding subs. The good news continues in that we have not had to use the amount of strategies that some districts are using due to this. Our current data shows that in 2008, October 2018, we had about an 85% fill rate on average that month. So we were able to fill 85% of our positions that were open in 2018 October. Today, this month of last month, October, we hit 65%, approximately on average. September, we were at 55%. So we're slowly making some headway. We are very hopeful that with the vaccine becoming available to elementary students that we're going to start seeing an uptick in some of our subs who have been reluctant to come into our elementaries because of that. When we have openings, we use internal coverage strategies. Staff who are on duty-free lunch or breaks, they can be paid to internally sub. That is also the case during certain times of their day, such as personal plan. When we still have needed openings, we will use a rotating basis for resource staff. So that's more of a reassignment for the day, but we use a rotation so that we are not always utilizing that same position. And that includes administrators, assistant principals, everyone, all hands on deck. We can at times combine classes. We have not had to do that so far this year that I'm aware of. At the junior high, it might be for a period. At the elementary, we have some very small classes, so in some buildings, they may be able to do that. Some districts are having to resort to switching actual classes to study halls and then just providing supervision. And even just last week, a pretty nearby district had to notify parents that they may have to go to remote if they did not have enough subs for the following day. So the staffing shortage is not just an education issue. As you know, it's across our community, but it is slowly improving. I have to thank our administrators for their constant creativity, our office managers, and our staff. Our staff want to be here, and they put forth the effort to be here and to cover for each other during these challenging times.
Hopefully mine is short and sweet. We, in finance and facilities, we've been talking about going forward with the work that we're doing for next summer, and we'll be finding out some bid results for our next meeting. Hopefully we can vote on that. The district, the business office is looking at spending per program, but we'll get some sort of initial information shortly. It's a lot of account codes to pour through. And now that our audit is finished, looking at our 5-year plan being drafted based on the current annual financial report so that we can actually look and see, based on an educated guess, where we're at in 5 years, not just revenues, but expenses. The big issue we have right now is inflation. I know that right now we're looking at even the December CPI for next year being between 4% and 5%, which is what the discussion is as of right now, as well as materials for construction being anywhere from 10 to 20% is what we've heard. So that's why that 60 fund that we've been talking and building up is so important, and it's important to jump on projects so that we get ahead of the inflation. And then the last piece, I know that Dr. Sager had brought this up, and we're going to tie this in with our board performance indicators, is our meritorious budget award, and tying in the goals and how our budget has tied in with all 4 of them.
All right, from the instruction department, we have some updates around the area of Goal 1, particularly our primary focus on our math implementation. We are now wrapping up our first round of gathering feedback. Am I not on? Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, I turned it off. All right, math implementation plan, take 2. We are finishing up our last round of gathering data on our staff self-assessment survey, as well as walkthrough data. We are seeing some patterns emerge. We have made some next steps to adjust based on those patterns. The first pattern was pacing. However, teachers are maintaining pace to a great degree based on some of the data that we have, although that we have provided some supports in ways of adaptation packs that coaches have been working on, so that they can actually go in and find ways to adjust their units and adjust their lessons to better support students based on their needs. So that's been the first step with that. We'll continue to keep our eye on the pacing. In addition, we are starting demonstration classrooms. Our first round will take place the end of the month, 11/30 into December, but we've already been doing some demonstration classrooms that district has provided, as well as coaches at buildings have been doing lots of demonstration classrooms on their own to support staff in implementing the new curriculum. In addition, we have our literacy audit review that is ongoing, and our next meeting is tomorrow, actually after school. So we are actually in the research phase of really looking at literacy research and diving into professional learning for our team around our standards and understanding the intent and structure of those standards as a whole group. And then dual language audit is also culminating with a great deal of data that has been collected, including teacher focus groups, administrator focus group, parent focus group, another parent focus group coming this week, next week maybe, I think, as well as every classroom has been observed by the auditors in our dual language program. So the data that we'll be getting back from the dual language audit, as well as our timeline for the literacy audit, will be culminating around January, and we'll be able to be looking at those results together.
Can I ask a question? Is there going to be another dual language parent focus group?
Yes.
Because I had participated in the first one.
Yeah.
And I'm always going to be a big proponent of finding ways to communicate it better, because a lot of folks received the invite hours before the scheduled event, and it was a very small showing, and I was concerned that we're just not getting an accurate data sample with that. So if we could just make sure that we really kind of publicize it well.
Yes, absolutely. I forget the date off the top of my head, but I think it might be early next week, and that communication is going to go out twice. We really took a good look and assessed at how that went down to make sure that we can make sure that we're pulling the right groups and communicating multiple ways as well.
Be sure you send it out to the board, too.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll round it out with just last 2 pieces. So obviously we have our equity audit that is wrapping up, and our team actually met last week for some preliminary review of our equity audit. We've really narrowed it down to our top 3 focus areas. So we're looking at special education, transportation with enrollment, and then as well as schedules. And so those are 3 things that we're really going to be looking at the recommendations from DM group. And the nice thing is the things that they shared with us are things that we kind of already saw on our radar, but really gave us some pinpointed, nice data, concrete data to take back and start to develop some recommendations. And then that full report out will be coming, I believe, in January. And then lastly, in terms of ownership and voice for goal area number 2, this Thursday I am meeting with our PTO and FTO leadership group. So I'm excited to have that meeting on Thursday and get a chance to just hear from our PTO and FTO leaders and hear what they would like to, how they would like to be involved, and how we can be better partners in serving our students.
And I think that's a great idea. I think there's so much involvement at each different school, and they're all doing different things, and there's just kind of that bridge to communicate or put them together is what's necessary. So I commend that. I think that's really great.
And that is all we have for tonight.
Any last questions or comments? Great, can I get a motion for close?
Thank you again to the board
Yeah.
for the lovely
Okay.
flowers.
So we don't need a closed session tonight, so can I get a motion for adjournment?
How unusual. I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Well, let's read it, we gotta read it properly.
I did do it properly. That's all you have to do is move.
You gotta read the little. Be resolved.
But we aren't in a.
There it is, it's right there on the TV in front of you, Mardell,
Pardon me?
on TV.
Be it resolved that on the 8th day of November, 2021, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education meeting is adjourned. That's not the motion, that's what you say.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Sager.
Aye.
Schumacher.
Schumacher. Aye.
Espino.
Aye.
Lang.
Aye.
Mencia.
Aye.